Welcome to the VFP National Convention in Spokane, Washington. Beautiful city here. We have a very apropos theme for the convention: sacred land, sacred lives. Peace knows no borders, and we have a lot of very important business to do this weekend, but it's also kind of a reconvening of the tribe, so to speak. A lot of live familiar faces, having good conversations. We're almost reluctant to interrupt that. I'm Gerry, Condon. I'm the National President of Veterans for Peace, and this is as much a challenge as an honor. But I'm really pleased to be able to play that role, and I'm also really pleased to be working with some great executive directors. And I want to bring up two executive directors here shortly, and one of them is Michael McPherson. Who served us so well for so many years. And then Michael will have a few words to share, and he'll introduce our new executive director. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Well, I don't have a lot to say, and I'm just going to try to project, because I just didn't, I think it's appropriate that we have to welcome in this room with this display, because this speaks a lot to our history, right?
Yes.
From at least the Vietnam era to present day. And a lot of people probably didn't know that this history, and because they don't tell us this history, right? They don't want us to know this history. They tell us a lot of history, but it's not this history. They don't want us to know this, right? And I'm really happy to be able to say that I know a lot of these people that are on this wall. And I've had the opportunity to learn from many of these people and be impacted by many of these people, so that I have a strength when it comes to resistance that I have to say, just to be honest, the base of my resistance is my mother. She's the one that's given me the base strength, right? But for me to have the full education about resisting war and being a veteran and having the ability to stand up in the way that I do now, I have to give that praise to this organization known as Veterans for Peace, and I appreciate that. And I praise you for that. I also want to say that I appreciate all of you and being able to have the honor to serve you as your executive director, because, I knew when September 11 happened that this country was going to do what it did. I knew that. I was in New York. I was in New York when it happened. I was on Manhattan when it happened. And when it happened, I actually got on my knees and prayed, because I'm a believer. And I prayed that our country would not do what it did. And I asked for the strength to respond in the appropriate way. But I didn't know anything about Veterans for Peace yet, right? So I didn't know that there were going to be some other people that were going to help me respond in the right way. And thank goodness I found, actually my wife, another woman in my life, my mother and my wife. My wife told me about a person named David Klein, who's on that wall over there.
Yeah. Hey, David.
Told me about David Klein, who was going to be speaking at something she was speaking at about civil liberties after 9/11. And he was going to be speaking there. And fortunately, because I was starting to get into the peace movement, but I hadn't found a home yet. I hadn't found a place where I felt I belonged. And then I heard David Klein speak, and I thought to myself, well, this is a guy who's in a group called Veterans for Peace, and I'm a veteran who's working for peace. Hell, I'm already a veteran for peace. Let me find out about this group. So I go to a meeting, and I'm just going to be honest with you all. There was a bunch of white guys much older than me, right? I'm one of the youngest. At the time, I was like, because this was 2003, I'm 55 now, it was 16 years ago, so I'm 39 years old or so. And I'm like, is this gonna work out? You know what I mean? But I took the time and learned, especially from Klein, and I don't know, maybe it wouldn't work out if I didn't have him as a role model. Someone who understood me, and I think I understood him. And I found out that this is a bunch of great people with good hearts that's willing to stand up against American imperialism and injustice. So what? I can't do it by myself, so I stayed in the organization. And I was fortunate enough to be able to serve you. So once again, I want to thank you for that. I want to say one more thing, and then I'll move on to Gerry.
You were lucky too.
Yes, man. So having been in the organization now for quite some time, comparative to some of you, it's just a blink, you know, because I know some of you have been in for a very, very long time. I have seen some changes and places we need to go. So I want to say to you that we're in a transition period. The whole country obviously is in a transition period.
Amen.
Right? I mean, the racism, the sexism, the xenophobia, the heterosexism that has risen in our country in ways that I haven't really seen, and I thought that a few years ago, but recently, oh my God, it's just off the hook, right? So we're in a struggle, not only when it comes to American imperialism and injustice around the world, but right here at home. And that's why, not too many years ago, we talked about peace at home, peace abroad. Some people didn't like that, but we were right.
Yeah.
We were ahead of the curve in some ways, right? And that we have to have this struggle that encompasses not just what's happening somewhere else, but what's happening here, because they go together. They're not separate from each other. But struggles do begin at home, which means they begin in our own organization, okay? So as we are going through a struggle around the world and in our nation, we also have to struggle with each other in a principled way, especially in terms of how we treat each other. So I'm asking you to remember that, because that's central to us being able to do good work.
Right on.
Okay? Because I'm telling you, if we can't treat each other well, we certainly can't be models for how other people should treat each other. Right? And why should someone want to join us when they look at us and say, I thought you were veterans for peace, but you're not very peaceful? Okay? So that's very, very important. I just feel like I had to say that. And as I transition and now talk about Gerry, who I'm so happy. I cannot tell you how happy I am. Not that I'm leaving now. There's some happiness about that.
Just a little bit.
Right, yeah. I'm so happy that Gerry is taking my place in that it is him. Because another person that David Klein also had an influence on was Gerry Reppenhagen. Gerry has been around our organization for quite some time. You know, I left once before as executive director of Veterans for Peace. Unfortunately, the person who took my place wasn't one of us. Gerry is one of us. Gerry understands us. Gerry's been around us. He knows who we are. He knows our greatness, and he knows the things we need to fix. And that's right, our challenges, right? And I'm really happy about that. And I have the full confidence in Gerry Reppenhagen. So I'm just going to get out of the way and let him have the mic.
Hey!
Check it out, man. You know, Michael mentioned Dave Klein, and you know, I came back from Iraq in 2005. This dude Dave Klein took me. I was like, "Hey, brother, like you're fucking up. Like, you got to go this way," and he guided me. You know, he led me on a path that saved my life. This movement has saved my life.
Amen. Amen.
The history around us of the veteran and GI movement is so heavy, so intense. If I knew you all were here when I was in Iraq, I would have better days. You know, I only survived because I have brothers like Ben Schrader serving along with me in the scout platoon that I served in. I had hard days as a sniper in Iraq. And finally I started speaking out And it was like a voice in the darkness, and I didn't even know who I was speaking to. And somebody responded to me, named Dennis O'Neill, named Stan Goff, named Ward Riley. And all of a sudden, I started realizing, I started seeing these pictures on the wall without seeing them like I am for the first time now. You know, I saw this history that I was being a part of GI resistance in Iraq. And, you know, Iraq Veterans Against the War formed while I was in Iraq, and some folks reached out to me and was like, hey, you gotta join this organization. And I was the first active duty member of Iraq Veterans Against the War, serving as a months later, I was in Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth, for my first Veterans for Peace convention, a month after I got home from Iraq. And a woman came up to me and said, my son died in Iraq, and I'm going to face our president to ask him why.
Oh yeah, Cindy.
My son can't stand by my side. Will you stand in his place? And I said, I'll never replace your son, but I'll stand by your side anywhere you go. Yeah. And we started Camp Casey, and we started a movement. And I swear to God, the TV that I saw the war in Iraq started in Dallas-Fort Worth Airport when I was coming home on leave from Kosovo is the same television I saw Cindy Crawford in when I was flying out of Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, saying, maybe peace is possible.
Casey.
Cindy Sheehan.
Cindy Crawford.
My number one motivation. Look, everybody's excited that I'm here like I'm something special, but I'm just a manifestation of y'all. You mentored me when I came home, and I've heard over and over again veterans say that we don't want to leave another generation behind. We don't want to have another war, and maybe we didn't organize well enough, or maybe it was just fucking impossible to end war the way we were doing it and how we were doing it. But I will tell you that I was not left behind. I came home and I had a crowd, a family, a community of people, fellow veterans and associates that helped me along on my path. And when I was hired as the executive director of this organization, you were hiring yourselves because I'm a product of you.
Yeah, all right.
And I can't promise to the next generation that I'll be able to end war in time to stop another fucking generation from going to war. But what I can promise is I'll work my ass off to try. All right. And I know now that what I didn't know when I was in Iraq, that there is this community, there's this history. You people exist, and we're going to stay together, and we're going to keep working for justice and peace. You know, if you want to know more of my story, my buddy Travis is here. You all know Travis. He's working on a documentary to highlight the atrocity of war. And I'm featured in this film, and there's a special trailer with me in it. If you want to learn more about my personal story, there's some of it in it. So check that out at 9 o'clock in the film room. We've got awesome poetry coming out that's going to be inspiring, and I might get up and say, you know, maybe a limerick or something, you know, maybe a dad joke or something. But we really do got an incredible program together, and the team in Spokane and the chapter here has been very generous. And I think our theme is really critical because we have to, you know, there's a lot of shit going on in this world. We got to treat this planet better, or we're all gonna die.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
When we talk about sacred lands, you know, there's stuff we can learn from indigenous cultures throughout time that have been this place that we're occupying today. And we can learn from their stories, and we could do better. And if we don't change what's happening to our climate, you know, this next generation. My son is 4 years old. I named him Ocean, and you know, he's in for a hell of a ride, right? And if we don't change things, our civil society can break down. We're going to lead to more war and more conflict, and it starts there. And I think there's two things that can end this human race: this nuclear war and our climate. And I think Veterans for Peace has a place there, and I think we can't do it without a strong community. And the next community is going to be more diverse than we've seen ever before. And when we talk about equality, we're not talking about putting anybody down. We're talking about rising everybody up, so we can all stand on that mountain.
Yeah.
When Dave Klein first got a hold of me, I organized out of rage and anger. I was pissed. I wanted to fight cops. I wanted to storm the Pentagon. You know, I was mad. But I learned that I had to come from a place of compassion and love. And when I look at my fellow organizers and I see that I'm hurting them, I gotta stop myself. Organize from a place of love. And then we could succeed. If we organize from a place of hate and anger, we're not gonna win. And if we do win, it's not gonna be sustainable. Right? So let's build a community we want. Let's build a community that's worth saving and stopping war for. And let's stop fucking war.
Amen. Yeah.
Well, that was the most amazing handoff. And I want to offer the executive director to the next, and really promising for the future of Veterans for Peace. And thank you so much to Michael McPherson. All the best for Gerry Reckoner. I don't want to keep talking all night long here. We want people to get back to socializing soon. We got a poetry reading coming up soon. Well, we have a little woman power up here. So I've asked Colonel Lamright.
Gerry, move back a little bit.
Thanks. Thank you. Don't be as close to the mic as I was. Colonel Lamright's going to come up here and say a few words to us all. So please.
All right.
Thank you, Gerry, and thank you, Michael. Another great round of applause for Michael, who's been with us through phases.
Yeah.
And to Gerry, that's going to be with us through thick and thin. Speaking of being with us through thick and thin, I just wanted to let you know, I live in Hawaii, and guess what happened to Hawaii? We received 2 weeks ago the wonderful, wonderful Veterans for Peace historic anti-nuclear sailing ship, the Golden Rule.
Yeah.
With the heroic efforts of Helen Jacquard, the operations director.
Yeah.
Humboldt County, Humboldt, California, and everybody that's been with that boat for the last many years. The fastest project in the history of Veterans for Peace was that little boat that was renovated as an anti-nuke boat that in 1958, 61 years ago, was in Honolulu, heading for the Marshall Islands to stop atmospheric nuclear testing. As Garrett says, his kid's 4 years old. Well, that nuclear testing was going on before Garrett's parents were even born. And we're in another nuclear cycle right now. So it is so important that that little boat, 34 feet, it is not as big as from that wall to where I am. And 4 guys sailed that thing in 20 days from San Diego to Hilo, Hawaii. And we have a crew member that was on the attempt, the one right before it. Where's Jamie Skinner? Where's Jamie?
Jamie, where are
Jamie,
you?
where are you? Well, he couldn't be on that last voyage because he is in chemotherapy. So, but he wanted to be a part of that. Anyway, so when you see Jamie, say thank you very much. Anyway, so from Hilo, this little boat goes through the Hawaiian Islands, and I think I saw Ruth Aloha. Ruth, are you here? There she is right back here. Ruth, raise your hand. Ruth is
Ruth, come on.
Ruth is from Kona, Hawaii. Come on up. She's going to be.
Yes.
She will be our keynote speaker of
mai ka ko o hutoroa ko I noa o mauna a wā kia ku mauna o kona ku aina kupuna o ka loko ku loko.
No, back up.
Back up? Yeah. O kona kaimalino ku kai. So I'm sorry, I can't start speaking until the room is quiet. Yeah.
Quiet, please.
Yeah. So when you folks invited me to speak, I'm not sure, I've been thinking about what I could say. Tonight's not the night for the speech to come through. Yeah, it's not, but I have to do the introduction again. Yeah. I have to make my ancestors proud. And I have to feel respected. O utaloa ko'u inoa, o mauna awa kia ku'u mauna. O kona ku'u aina kupuna. O ka loko ku'u loko. O kona kaimalino ku'u kai. And I was thinking, if you've seen me speak, I am not a speaker to be taken lightly. If you've watched my testimonies, they're pretty strong, and so I said, if Veterans for Peace is inviting me, they must be ready. Because I say things that will shake the room. It'll make people so uncomfortable, it'll unsettle the settlers within, it'll unsettle the settler within the native. That is who I am, and I come with nothing less. I come forward as a Kanaka Maoli. I am not an American citizen. I will never be. I do not stand alone. There are many natives in Vets for Peace, I'm sure, but whose lands have not only been used for war and training, but are continuously militarized. So I come from illegally occupied Hawaii, humbly to you to share today. Not today, but on Saturday. But I'm happy to be here. I got to meet Gerry and Aaron and Helen, who are wonderful, wonderful people, and came up to Mauna Kea, literally came to the peaks of our mountain. It is a war zone. It is a war zone, and our elders are sitting on the line, and you folks went out to Standing Rock with Auntie LaDonna folks, and I thank you. I thank you for standing with us, with standing with Native peoples. We need everyone. There's not things that you can learn from us. The very existence of humanity is dependent upon the knowledge of indigenous peoples. We are not on the sidelines for our knowledge to be taken or used when it's convenient. We are the path to the survival of humanity. And that calls for decolonization, it calls for bravery, it calls for the climate of fear and violence to be met by a climate of aloha, and that is one of love. And I feel that in the room, and I want to thank everyone for allowing me to speak. But just for a side note, if you invite an indigenous person to speak, please respect them. Respect all peoples, but if I was an elder, I would have felt very embarrassed for all of you. Because you folks are a collective, and so every single one of you holds the rest to the same command. And so that's just a teaching I can pass to you, because if Auntie Poole was here, or Chief Kaylee, or Auntie Karina Gold from the Winnemem, from the Onone tribe, I would hope that you folks could greet them respectfully. And I also want to acknowledge the first peoples of these lands. I wanted to ask how many of you have asked for permission when you landed here, if you're not from these lands. If you haven't, integrate that into your practice. And if you have, thank you. And maybe others can learn from you as well. That's what I did when I came. And the reason I'm talking about this is because this is the kind of truth that I'm going to give you. And I should have said this when I started, but you're either going to love me or you're going to hate me. And I'm okay with either way you fall, because the truth is, and you folks know this, and you folks are here for peace, and you folks are here in a place of love, but we're running out of time. And the way that we will save our humanity is literally not only calling indigenous people into these circles, but giving them leadership positions to help save us all. Anyway, that's just a sneak peek. I speak on Saturday. I'm excited to speak to you folks and to learn. I'll be attending as many sessions as I can. I thank you for having me. I thank you for allowing me to offer you some teachings, for there are other indigenous peoples that enter into these circles that they may be greeted appropriately and in a good way. Anyway, thank you.
All right.
Well, we can't add anything to that other than to say we will be meeting other indigenous Marshall Islands, the site for the U.S. Horrific nuclear explosions that happened there for 40 years, then going on through the Micronesian islands, and then to Guam, and then up to Okinawa, and then into the mainland of Japan to be in Hiroshima by August 6th of 2020. The Golden Rule, the Veterans for Peace ship will be there. Thank you.
Amen.
Okay, well, thank you all for being here. Back off with the mic. Let's get the opposite message. So, okay, I can't say anything after that. Those powerful words from Ruth Alua and Ann Wright. And so I release you all back to your conversations and to finish your drinks. And then in 15 minutes, actually, 7:30, in a salon very near here. Which salon is the poetry reading going to be in? Anybody? Somebody knows?
Three.
Salon 3. And you know, I'll just say a quick thing about the poetry reading, just to promote it.
Yes.
In the past years, when I came to the convention, I was preoccupied with other
in the lobby at 8.
duties and writing notes, getting stuff ready for the next day, and I missed the poetry readings. And I heard good things about it. So a couple of years ago, I finally went to the poetry reading, and I said, oh my God, this is the most powerful thing that happens at this convention. Or certainly one of the most powerful things that happens at the convention. We have a lot of profoundly wonderful veteran poets. So I encourage you to attend that poetry reading starting in 15 minutes just down the hall here in Salon 3. And thank you all for being here. We're going to have a fantastic convention.